This past week, the National Guard finished compiling data and an analysis based on surveys with National Guard troops that have been deployed against U.S. citizens. So they put together this survey, compiled all this data, packaged it up into a nice little report, and then sent it off to the Pentagon, because that's where such things go, right? They're part of the U.S. military, so it goes to the Pentagon. And then they realized, oops, duh, I didn't type in to the Pentagon. I accidentally just sent this to the Washington Post. Whoopsie-doo, right? Yeah, the National Guard put together a report that actually shows that troops are disgusted and ashamed of what Donald Trump is making them do. And instead of sending it to their superiors, they sent it to the Washington Post by accident. Right? Accident. Yeah, it was totally an accident. Because I also frequently get things confused regarding the Washington Post and the Pentagon. For example, I meant to subscribe to the Washington Post, and instead I now get the Pentagon's newsletter because I typed in the wrong name. Right? Because Pentagon and Washington Post they're so similar, I can barely tell the words apart. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that this piece of information was sent to the Washington Post. But if you want to convince me that this was done by accident, you'd have a faster time trying to swim across the Gulf of Mexico, because that ain't gonna happen. There is not a single part of me, nor should there be a single part of you, that thinks that this was accidentally sent to the Washington Post, especially when you find out what it actually says. Contrary to the view of the White House and some cable news pundits, putting the National Guard on the streets for the putative reason of controlling crime is falling flat, with terms like leveraging fear, driving a wedge between citizens and the military, and promoting a sense of shame leaping out from interviewed troops and veterans associated with the occupation. As the Post reported, the assessments, which have not been previously reported, underscore how domestic mobilizations that are rooted in politics risk damaging Americans' confidence in the men and women who serve their communities in times of crisis. A National Guard official acknowledged the documents are authentic, but downplayed their sensitivity, saying the assessments are intended for internal use and were inadvertently emailed to the Post last week. Yeah, because again, we totally accidentally leak things to the press all the time in the Trump administration, don't we, folks? No, somebody did this intentionally, and I'm glad they did. Again, awesome. You should have, because the American public needs to know what else is in there. Trending videos show residents reacting with alarm and indignation. One segment features a local resident describing the Guard's presence as leveraging fear, not security, highlighting widespread discomfort with what many perceive as a show of force. According to the Post, a standout point in the assessment indicated mentions of fatigue, confusion, and demoralization, with specific complaints about just gardening, unclear mission, and a wedge between citizens and the military. So let me kind of distill that for you. Confusion, unclear mission, and just gardening. Well, I had mentioned a report that actually came out, I believe it was either from The Independent in the UK or The Guardian a couple weeks ago, that said that the National Guard troops have so little to do that they've just started picking up trash in the parks. So that's, I guess, what they're calling the just gardening. They're picking up trash. They're street sweepers at this point, because we don't know what we're supposed to be doing. There's an unclear mission. And anyone who's ever served in the military, I have not, but anyone who has knows that unclear mission is about one of the worst things you can hear, or the worst thing you can experience. Like, you're just dropped off and told, best of luck, buddy. No! No! And the shame, right? The shame of this. Well, gee, I thought Donald Trump said these people were getting rid of all the bad criminals. If you're getting rid of bad criminals, why would you feel shame about that? It's almost as if the administration has lied about every single step of this, and the troops are now trying to admit it in a coded message to the Washington Post. But hey, what do I know? I've only been in this industry for over 20 years and have kind of learned to see what really goes on behind the scenes.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We're inching closer and closer to 1 million subscribers, and we're aiming to hit that goal before the year closes. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so, and don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thanks for joining us as we head towards this huge milestone.